You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another special guest. We're going to talk to Tracee Garner, and today's topic, we're going to discuss overcoming adversity with a can-do attitude. She is our amazing international best-selling author of over 18 books, as well as a well-known speaker and also a writing coach. I just want to welcome her to the show and say, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, I'm doing awesome. It's a true honor having you on the show. Before we dive into today's topic, tell us a little bit about you, your books, and all the stuff you're doing today.
Sure. So what I'm doing today is this lovely podcast, of course, but I am actually getting over a little cold, so bear with me as I mute myself and cough up a lung. But for the most part, I'm just all around author that loves writing, loves God, of course, and loves telling people about what they can do despite having physical challenges in their life. I have muscular dystrophy, which is a form, I have spinal muscular atrophy, I should say. That is a form of muscular dystrophy. Most people only know the most popular ones, which is ALS. That's also a form of muscular dystrophy. But I was diagnosed with that at age 2 years old, and I got my first wheelchair of like 7 or 8 now, I don't know how many, but in elementary school. And so that brought on the bullies, of course, but I've just learned to love this life despite what people perceive as limitations, and I do, deal with my chronic condition as best I can. But writing has saved me, my mental health, and just given me a real purpose in life. And I just thank God for it, and I love it. And I write mostly romantic suspense. And this year in January, I wrote a book about overcoming disability, talking about employment and getting jobs and navigating those pitfalls of discrimination and people not believing that you can work and do things, and just a number of different topics, transportation, caregiving, all kinds of things I'm sharing in my latest nonfiction book.
And speaking of that, you have a website, TraceeGarner.com. That's TraceeGarner.com. And with having a disability, take the audience into your world. What is it like day to day for you?
Yeah, day to day, once I get in my chair, I'm pretty good. But of course, there's a lot of little logistical things people don't really realize and don't really know happening behind the scenes. I have caregivers in the morning and in the evening. And I also have a relative, my mother, who is also around and nearby to help me do some of my daily activities, such as bathing and, getting dressed and getting ready for the day. Once I'm in my chair, which, are like my legs, I'm off to the races. But, sometimes caregivers don't show up or they're late and I got to get to work and I got to sign on. And so, just those little hiccups can be frustrating for a lot of people, always relying on somebody else for things. Right now, I'm dealing with a modified vehicle that has wonderful hand controls that I can drive, but it didn't pass inspection. So it's aging, and it just costs so much to get the hand controls, get a new van, and all of that I'm thinking about. And even learning to drive was really difficult. But, I overcame all those things. But those are some of the things that people that, are ambulatory, don't have disabilities, don't think about, like how hard it is to get yourself going, especially when you have to rely on others. They need to be on time, and they need to realize that their assistance that they provide you really help you live a good quality of life. And so that's one of the things that I talk about. The caregiving industry has such a high turnover. And it's hard to find good quality people that you're going to bring into your home and that you can trust. And so those are just some of the issues that you have to deal with when you want to go out. Sometimes, things aren't as accessible if you go out with a group of friends and somebody that you don't quite know arranges the accommodations, and you get there and there are a bunch of steps. And so that means that, sometimes you can't participate, and that can be very lonely and isolating. And so, you have to really be sometimes vulnerable to tell people what you need and really let them know that I'm counting on you to make sure that everything is okay for me to participate and me to hang out with my friends, which is, what I want to do and what every other person that I know in the world wants to do and wants to participate in this life.
Once again, listening to I'm Refocused Radio, talking to our special guest, Tracee Garner. And in today's topic, overcoming adversity with a can-do attitude, you kind of touched on a lot of things. But when it comes to just having that focus on, okay, today I'm going to make it a good day despite how I feel. Mm-hmm. Number one, how do you do that for yourself when you're just speaking about Tracee?
Sure. Ways I do that for myself is as much as you can control, realize that you can't control everything. You can make plans and you can make contingency plans. You can make plan DEF when ABC goes awry. But I think if you relax a little bit, you can really start to say, well, I'm going to have to cut out on, I don't know, brushing my teeth, which I never do that. But, it's just going to be mouthwash today because I don't have time because I have to get to work and get things done. So when you can really make contingency plans for things that go wrong in your life, and so long as you have a plan and you know what you can do to mitigate yourself kind of getting into this downward spiral, that will be really a test of your character, a test of patience, especially because I'm always waiting on somebody. People say I have the patience of a saint, and that's only because all these years I've had to wait, on the help that I need. And being nasty and being mean is not going to bring people around to my way of thinking about being on time and being accommodating and being helpful. That nasty attitude that I might give out, which I don't, but I know people who do, who are frustrated with their situations, they don't get any more help in the future. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. And all of a sudden you'll find yourself alone and depressed. So just having a great attitude, having a lot of patience, and making those contingency plans and anticipating that sometimes things are not going to work out. And if you have a plan and are able to adapt, you're going to win. And so those are the things that I use that I've learned to use, because I had to, that I've learned to use in my own life, to keep things going and to keep my own sanity.
And speaking of that, what are some of the things that influenced you in your life to keep you positive and to have that I can do this attitude?
I think my faith. My dad was a pastor for over 30 years. He was a preacher when I got here in 1976. And he had, just him and my mom instilled faith in me. So I just, pray and really ask God for the things that I feel that I don't have, which include, patience and understanding. And I also look at some of my caregivers thinking, they have lives, they have children, and they have spouses, some of them, and they have things that they're dealing with in their own life before they even get to my house. And so when you can really think about what are other people going through, one of the things I think we lack in this world, in this culture, especially with the younger set, is empathy. And so when I can really step back, instead of being all mad about why aren't you on time? Why didn't you get here? I got to go to work. I have a meeting at 9:00. And it takes like an hour and a half to get everything that I need to get done. I could just say, are you okay? Did something happen? Sometimes people are in an accident. You never know what happened before they got to you. And so grace and understanding, the same grace that God has with all of us, is what we need to adopt and use on other people. So, just thinking about what's their situation. They might have had a blowout. They may be getting ready to get a divorce. I'd be like, well, that's because you ain't never on time. I'm just kidding. But they just be ready to go through something that you have no idea about. And a kind word, a kind deed will turn around, that bad day you're having. If they're having a bad time, then I meet their bad time with my bad time. Nobody's happy. And so just thinking about them and thinking about, maybe they need a raise. You ain't paying no money to come here and take care of you. I can barely make ends meet. I need a living wage. All of that really impresses upon how a person responds and how people act. And sometimes, we're not paying enough money, and that affects their bottom line and how they can take care of their family. So when you can get the focus off of you and what you're going through, you'll always feel better. You'll always have a good disposition, because there's always somebody worse off than you.
And that's well put, because adversity is something that comes to every door. It doesn't skip doors. We all can probably share a personal story of our own life where we got our fair share of adversity. And when it comes to disability, those who may be dealing with it, and they're listening to this episode right now with you, Tracee, maybe someone has recently found out that they've been diagnosed with something that is really put adversity in their life. And when they are now dealing with this new challenge, based on your personal experience, what words of wisdom would you share with someone who is facing those pressing issues?
Yeah, I would say there's just a couple things that I would highlight. And one is to take whatever was told to you with a grain of salt. Doctors are in the business of practicing. Somebody's practicing medicine. That means they haven't yet mastered it. Yes, they have a gazillion degrees and lots of experience in the business. But I never liked how many times doctors give a dismal report, and they don't know you, they don't know your God. And so I think that it's important that you take whatever you've been given with a grain of salt and an optimistic outlook. The second thing is just to arm yourself with knowledge. Our brain is good. I'm a storyteller, and my brain is really good after 18 books of making up stories, which is mostly fiction. I've only had 3 nonfiction books out of the 18. So I love making up stuff. And when somebody tells me something, my mind just goes, and I done created a whole story about a lady just standing holding a peach in her hand in the grocery store. She's married, she's got 5 kids, and she's thinking, I would just love to have a peach and sit in my car and eat it uninterrupted. I've created a whole story. And so that's what our brains do. Whether good stories or bad stories, our brains can run ahead of us. And all of a sudden, you're going to have a dismal picture. You're going to die in 6 months. You're going to have, a rapid a runaway cancer, and you're just better, get it together and just live like you're dying every single day, which is fine. But, we never have optimism when we first hear something, and we're never given the resources that we need. You need to call the association for the disability or disease that you've been diagnosed with. You need to get in a good group, a support group, so you can talk about things. You need to find out, about diet and things that you can do to mitigate the disease wreaking havoc with your body. And you just need to develop, the third thing is develop a support system. So, take a step back with a grain of salt from the doctor, really temper what he or she has said, get the resources and arm yourself with knowledge, and then get in groups who can support you and lift you up. And you can also absolutely cry, on their shoulder, but you need to have people in place. You need to have supports around you that will help get you through whatever you've been told.
Once again, listen, I'm Focus Radio talking to Tracee Garner, and I like what you're talking about because a support system is something that is very important for people, not to just stay motivated, but also kind of challenge them to say, hey, I do have potential. I can overcome this storm, this season in my life where things are tough. Well, here's not so good news. It's always going to be storms. It's always going to be times in our life where we're going to go through something that is going to frustrate us, that's going to hurt us, that's going to try to distract us from where our goals are in life. For you've been able to do that with writing. We mentioned earlier in the show, author of 18 books. You also are a speaker and writing coach. You are also the creator and founder of Garner Solutions, LLC. And with that, that is something that no one can take away from you. So what was your vision in starting the process?
Starting the process for my writing, or Garner Solutions that I created?
Garner Solutions, the business that you created.
Yeah, what I really hope to do was just help other aspiring authors. Really, book coaching came to me kind of after I used to teach at the community college. I was an adjunct professor, and I taught how to write a novel and small business PR and self-publishing boot camp for over 15 years. And one of the things that the students, kept lamenting to me about at the end of the last class, it was an 8-week class on writing the novel. They do not get to their full novel. It really depends on how fast you write. They would say, what am I going to do now? This class is ending. What am I supposed to do? So I really created, and, kind of the cha-ching bells went off in my head as they were telling me, like, how am I going to stay accountable and get this book done? And I was like, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Oh, by the way, I offer private writing coaching to help you get to the end of your book and finish it and publish it. And so that's really partly what Garner Solutions is the coaching and really an advocate for aspiring writers and to help them finish their books. I have just a few students right now. I don't take on more than 6 people a year, so I can devote as much time as I can. I have a children's book author. We're almost done. I have another, an 81-year-old lady who wanted to write a book about youth sports and crew, which I never thought I'd be helping someone write a book about rowing, because I am the least athletic person in the world. But it was just such a fun project. They have a goal of getting their book published. And I also have a romance writer who actually finaled in a romance writing competition recently. And so I just thought that, people need support. People need that group that you're talking about. And I've just been known, and I don't even advertise my book coaching much, but just word of mouth and through writing my own books, people find their way to me and say, I want to finish this book, before I die. And can you help me? And I'm like, of course. So I love helping people publish their own book, hold their book in their hand. That is so fun to me. And it's not even my book. My name is not on it, but I know that they have labored and really wanted to realize that goal and that dream for themselves. And so I'm kind of a coach and hold your hand to that process. So that was really what was born out of Garner Solutions. Garner Solutions also in the future will be helping people with disabilities, kind of coaching them as I expand. I haven't expanded yet, but I want to coach other people, life coaching. So writing a book is one thing, but also just navigating this life and finding the resources that you need. People also, need help with that. Life coaching is a multi-billion-dollar business. And it kind of exploded in the pandemic too, as people, kind of needed some compass help to really navigate and find their way. And so that's what I hope to do in another year or so, to expand, not just coaching for books, but coaching for, life pursuits and your personal and professional goals.
And speaking of goals, that is something that will always be tested with storms of life and distractions and whatever you want to, fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
When you are setting goals for yourself, not just for your business, but for your personal life, how are you putting that into reality? Like, how do you measure yourself to say, okay, even if it takes me this amount of time, I'm going to commit to the process and not stop until I reach my next level?
Yeah, it's really kind of easy. Coming up with all the plans is really just writing things down. One of my favorite books is called Write It Down, Make It Happen. I read that book, or at least passages of it, every year because, I find something new in it all the time. But I encourage people to really write down their goals. They say that a written goal is more likely to be achieved than one that you just think about in your brain. And so first thing is just writing down. I try to write goals for the entire year. Of course, they're going to change and they're going to evolve. But I know that I probably want to get 2 books done in a year and release them. It doesn't matter when they're coming out. I don't always know that fine level detail, but I think of at least 5 to 10 very broad goals for the entire year. And then I try to plot them on my calendar to say, this is what I want to do in Q1, Q2, and Q3 and 4. But honestly, I'm not always that detailed. I just know this is what I want to do. And I know what the steps are. And I sometimes write down the steps, but I know what the steps are to reach that goal. And so, and then there are some unexpected goals. People should always leave room for the unexpected, or at least have the goals that you don't tell to anyone. They're just kind of for you and God. And if you find yourself working towards them and you can realize them, then okay, tell people. But, I believe people should really keep some of their personal and even professional goals to themselves, because you don't want to be swayed. You don't want anybody to look at them like, oh, that's so dumb. You'll never be able to do that. It's really important. Goals are not for anybody but you. And so you should really keep them close to the vest, but, always have them in the back of your mind. This is what I want to get done this year. And this is how I'm going to make it happen, because you need the steps. Also, a lot of times people omit the actual incremental steps that you need to take, and have milestones to say, you want to publish a book. Okay, how about the first 10 chapters or the first 5? Kind of eat that elephant kind of thing, piece by piece. And so that's what sometimes I find when I do goal setting workshops, and especially with youth, is they're missing, the incremental steps and the milestones and the rewards, because you got to have rewards, because that will continue to motivate you until the finish line.
Once again, talking to Tracee Garner, and when we wrap this conversation up, we've been talking about overcoming adversity with a can-do attitude. The audience listening to you, maximizing opportunities is a personal decision. And you touched on the key word when you talk about goals, and that is working towards them. It's not just you thinking happy thoughts. Oh, okay, I feel great today. Go back to sleep and hope that your goals just magically are accomplished. You seriously have to put in the dedication and commitment to actually see yourself get through the process. And as we are wrapping this up, how important is it for the audience to understand that it is a day-to-day commitment? It's not just, if I do it one day, I'm going to win tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Well, nothing, Rome wasn't built in a day. I mean, that's one view, excuse me, that we have to see that things take time. You first have to have fresh vision, and then you have to see how you're going to do it. And sometimes you're going to need backers and supporters to come along beside you and help you reach the goal. So, just looking at weight loss or other things that you do, sharpening your mind, becoming smarter, or getting more focused, those things take time. And you have to do a little bit, every day, every week, if you're going to expect to reach them. But it's really about stick-to-itiveness. And the people who have milestones and goals that they reach, they stuck to it for weeks, months, and even sometimes years to reach those goals. And that's the same thing I tell people about writing a book. A lot of people don't believe they can write a book, but if you start out with one sentence today, tomorrow you'll have a paragraph. On day 3, you can have 3 paragraphs. And at the end of the day, at the end of the week, you can have an entire page or 2 pages. And you just keep adding words to that manuscript. And you'll look up at the end of, a month or 3 months or a quarter, and you'll see, wow, I really can if I just work on this a little bit at a time. And I'm not even encouraging people to write every day, because I don't. I do write something every day, whether it be a blog post, a pitch for the podcast to get on this interview, just like I am on now. But every day I want to get to a certain goal, and I just keep working on it as much as I can. And the more you work on something, the more you condition that muscle to work on it, and your body and your mind will be like, what? It's time to do such and such. It's time to write. Have you written today? Have you ran today? Did you do your sit-ups? All of these things will start to come back to you, to your recall, because you're like, I'm conditioning my body and my mind to get in this mode and to work on this, because I'm working towards goal A or goal B. And so you can't expect to realize those things if you're not going to be willing to put in the time before that leads up to that target date. So that's what I would say, is just, you have to build upon whatever you're doing. You have to do it regularly, and you have to commit to it. And I would also say, just one last thing, is that, you have to ask yourself, if you don't reach something, is it for the right time? Are you really committed to that? Is that something you really wanted? Or is that something mommy and daddy wanted, or society wanted? When we don't reach things, there's also a lesson in that. And that is that maybe it wasn't the time for that. Maybe you don't really even want that. And that's okay. Admit when it's not right for you, and admit that you need to change this goal because that isn't what you wanted, or you get it and it's not all it's cracked up to be. And that's okay too. That requires goal altering, and to renew and change the goal as you need.
Once again, true honor talking to Tracee Garner. You go to her website. That's TraceeGarner.com. That's TraceeGarner.com. I want to say thank you for taking time, your busy schedule, talking to us, not just about your story, but about just inspiration and motivation to overcome adversity with a can-do attitude. I want to thank you again, Tracee.
Thank you.